how does this type of lifestyle improve who you are? I think you probably already answered this, but like, can you articulate again the fruit of this type of life?
Yeah.
Fail for you.
I can think of easily some of the biggest and most important events in my life, or my closest friendships, or things that let me exist and still be here as a human, all attributed to being afraid, doing it anyway, and sharing as the core of learning and teaching and exploring and adventuring into the world.
Yeah.
Because I spent a very long time being told by people that were afraid that I was not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I carried it way too long. And as I continue to shed that and add facets to my gemstone, I continue to let more light in. I cut more angles to look at things differently. Every time I give something away, every time I share, every time I reach out, every time I'm more accepting, or I can handle listening to things that are uncomfortable and still appreciate being able to share that experience, or accept the joy of someone sharing something and not need to say or do anything but just receive it, then incredible things have happened. Travel, connections with friends I never would have met, finding people that are some of the most important people in my life, having this conversation with you today.
Yeah.
So those things have been transformative and life-saving.
Yeah. Question 4. Do you remember the first step of this journey in your life? Do you remember that first courageous step? Is it tied to some story?
Several, maybe, but I think the moment that I realized I'll go back a little ways to being a very small kid and just love books and reading interesting facts, or like, the boys' life trivia or popular mechanics, whatever it is. There'd be some little thing that was like, here's a fact or here's something. And I loved sharing those with other people and learning them back.
Yeah.
And for a while, sharing that was creating negative reactions in people. Oh, I don't believe you. What do you know? Right. And so it continued to create a negative reaction. And I thought, okay, fine. I don't understand this. I was the only child. I don't have, I was just out in the woods and the ranch. My animals didn't care, but people had certain reactions to that. And I started doing it less and less, but I never lost the desire to do it. I just didn't understand why other people didn't want to hear it or share back. And then I would find little groups of friends, and, through high school, I basically hid in the theater and art department. And that was all about people being vulnerable, because you're on stage acting, or you're creating something together as a group. You all have to rely on each other. But I still held back. With my close friends, I didn't. But fast forward to being 19 or 20, going through school, and oftentimes being the youngest kid in a group of people learning something, realizing that I was understanding something that they weren't, and then helping them. That started including my instructors. So we'd be in a computer lab, and we'd be working on something new, and it just made sense to me. And so I would share why it made sense. and that would help people around me. And then we'd all go back to work. And then a few times like that, suddenly people are asking me questions, and then my instructor's like, hey, you've telling other people, hey, Brad figured this out, ask him. I was like, oh, okay. And then that was the catalyst of just other people going, oh, he knows, go ask him, Brad, can you help this person? And it just continued to build and build. And that reignited that feeling of like, oh, I have a fact. I have this information. I want to share it.
Yeah.
And when I would, then people, in this case, the right environment, the right people to receive it, they'd go, oh, I also figured this out. And so it started to just ping pong back and forth. And you'd go, oh, what else did you figure out? And you would just collaborate on the adventure of figuring things out together.
Yeah.
Like tinkering or just exploring, learning. And then someone else, oh, how did you figure that out? Or I did it this way. And just that continued. My first big job, why I stayed at the job for as long as I did, why I ended up in New Zealand working on Lord of the Rings, why I became the go-to parent in a group of moms about babies. Like, like in every situation, that just continued that cycle. Yeah. So I became less afraid of sharing, and I slowly shed the things that were holding me back from doing it. And
from your deep childhood, early childhood, when it got tapped down.
Yeah.
Don't share.
Yeah.
When you know something.
Right. That's just going to make you a target.
Yeah.
Yeah. And instead it made me successful. Not letting that die.
When you found your flock, when you found places where that was appreciated.
Yes. And then expanding to larger groups and across the world. And then suddenly people, like, that's been 19 years now of what my job was, raising kids, learning all the time, but also being reached out by people around the world going, hey, how did you do this? Can you help me?
Yeah.
And that's, it's life-changing.
Yeah. I think of, are you familiar with the neurodivergent love languages?
No, I don't think so.
So there's the regular love languages, right? There's like, I'm going to tell them in my order, which is like quality time, physical touch, words of affirmation, acts of service, and gifts.
Yeah.
That's the order that I normally put them in, from best to favorite to not favorite.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember the 5 neurodivergent love languages, but I remember one of them is sharing knowledge.
Wow.
It's when you deep dive in something, like I do it. I like learn, whether it's magic, whether it's, Rubik's Cube, whatever it is, I like go deep.
Yes.
Like I'll just watch videos after videos. I'll read articles and I'll want to share that with people.
Which is, I think, why you and I are friends.
I love sharing it.
Yeah.
It's like a part of what nourishes me and makes I feel love.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm giving love.
Right.
Through just sharing my excitement and passion for something.
Yes. And I don't give it with expectation. And I never did when I was younger either. It was just like, I was excited about it and I wanted someone else. I didn't want to be the only one that knew this.
Yeah. And
it was startling and shocking to me that someone would react negatively to that. It was like, oh, it's just a thing I'm telling you. I read this. Like, you don't have, like, I have this resource. I don't know if you do, but if you don't, here's this thing. Yeah. And it created, it made me a target when I did that. So I just started
you hide it.
Reducing and hiding. Yeah.
You hide your superpower.
Yeah. And then when you're 6'3" in high school and you already feel too big and too out. And so then you shrink and you shrink and you shrink your personality and you shrink your body and you hide.
Can you just play basketball already?
Right. Which is all, it's like, no, I just want to make art, right? Like, like whatever expectation, like, why are you, whatever it is, it's like cutting through the noise and hearing that and keeping that spark that you yourself covered.
Yeah.
Which has been an incredible change in the last year, is finding that ember was still there, still glowing, and throwing as much fuel on it as fast as possible as I could.
Yeah.